Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to talk to you about how you can make sure that you and your accountant stay friends for life. This is going to be in a video for you to understand exactly what your responsibilities are, or at least what you should be doing in terms of providing information for your accountant to go out there and prepare yourself a tax return or a set of accounts or whatever the information they need from you is going to be. This is your best practices. This is how you can have confidence in the data that you're providing to your accountant so that you can then make sure that everything is in the right place. And if you don't have an accountant, this video will also be useful for you because this will be giving you confidence before you transfer the information from QuickBooks to your tax return. Let's do this. Hello, my name is Aaron Patrick. I am a chartered accountant, a certified UK trainer, a fancy new logo, which has also been updated for 2022, I'll have you know. That QuickBooks chap on the internet and also head of accounts here at Boffix. So as you got from that intro, this video is all about making sure that your QuickBooks file, that file that you've been working on all year, maybe more, is ready to be passed over to your accountant or ready to be prepared for you to go and do your tax return. This video is all about making sure that the best practice you can do to ensure that all the information is there for your accountant. So let's strap in, let's get straight into QuickBooks Online and let's have a look at what key bits we need to make sure are going to be perfect for us and our accountant. Let's have a look. Well, first of all, I'm a big advocate of the dashboard, and you know I talk about this dashboard quite a lot. So at the moment, this dashboard is telling me quite a lot of information, especially if I go over to the business overview section. When I'm in my business overview section, I'm really starting to understand what's going on with my business. So straight away, as I scroll down here, I can see that I've got money that's overdue, and I've also got my bank account sat there. Now, first of all, one of the things you need to take ownership of is money that's overdue in your debtors account. Is that correct? Money that you're shown as due to your suppliers in your creditors account. Is that correct? Or maybe accounts receivable, accounts payable, depending on what terminology you're using. And your bank account, are they the true representation of what your bank can be? That's object number one. That's the simplest bit. That's making sure that you've got that data correctly. So let's have a look at what that means and how to find out. So first of all, the bank. Now, when we do our bank account in QuickBooks Online, we're always aiming for these two numbers to be exactly the same. We're always aiming for that number as well to be 0, and that bank balance and that in QuickBooks balance there are exactly the same. And it's really important we get that right, isn't it? If our bank balance in the real world is the same figure that's in our QuickBooks, and it's really important we get that right, isn't it? If our in-world, our real bank balance is the same as our QuickBooks bank balance, then that's a good starting point that everything's going to be a-okay. But if it's not, if our QuickBooks figure says something and our bank balance says something else, then clearly something's not right. Clearly there's an issue there that we should be investigating. And really, we should be sorting that out before we pass it on to our accountant. Let's have a look. The biggest thing that I would always suggest is, and there's many ways to get here, but I always like to use the go-to bank register just here. This is a view I'd highly recommend people get used to. This is telling them what's going through their bank account at any point in time. And crucially, and I think this is really, really important, notice that sometimes you don't get those nice green blobs appearing here. When you don't see a green blob there, that means that they've been manually added and they haven't been automatically added by a bank feed. So most of the time if you see a difference, it's down to these ones without the blobs. Now sometimes they should be there and sometimes they're legitimate, but other times it could be because they've been posted to the wrong account. Key though is at the top here is this reconcile button. And reconcile your bank account is basically saying that here's my bank statement in real life, it comes to X. Here's my account that's in QuickBooks, it comes to Y. Why don't they agree? Or if both of them are X and they both agree, you have a big tick there, giving you confidence that everything's okay. Let's have a look. So here it's asking me, well, what was my bank balance at my Revolut account as at a particular date? So if I knew I had £1,500 in, say the end of or today's date, and I press start reconciling just now, then straight away QuickBooks can do a lot of hard work for me. Remember I mentioned about those green blobs? Well, those green blobs are transactions QuickBooks can trust. So QuickBooks knows those figures are correct. So it's put those figures into QuickBooks Online and tick them for me without me having to go through them. Because in reality, I should be going through here and looking at my bank statement and looking at the information I've got here, and I should tick them off as I go along. So as I see £112.92 there, I should tick that off and move forward. And I should be going through and ticking all of these off as and when they go. Now at the moment I've got a difference, and it's telling me I can't even finish now until I've corrected that difference. If though I go through and I get all my reconciliations correct, I then have a nice finish now button, because now my statement ending balance, my 53603, is agreeing to my clear balance because I've gone through and ticked each individual transaction. At that point I can press finish now, press done. And that means that next time I go to start reconciling, let's say now that there is £1,000 that I'm expected to see, and press start reconciling. Well, now it's telling me that these are the transactions left. Now these transactions left here are actually legitimate transactions in my bank account, but I weren't able to tick any of these because I couldn't find any of these in my bank account. Now in reality, these can or may well be actually legitimate transactions. These could well just be timing issues. So for example, especially down the bottom here, we may be having some expenses or some income that's not quite gone through the bank account yet. Maybe these last three here are legitimate and we shouldn't have seen them. This one here, £2,400 though for Adwin Co. There's no way that account or transaction should really be there. By today's date, it's almost a year going forward. I expect to have seen that come through my bank account. And at the moment it hasn't. Now it's either a case that I've put it to the wrong bank account, or that Adwin Co has never actually paid me, and that should be a debtor that I should be showing as outstanding. Either way, I need to investigate further because I need to get that right. And if I just leave it here and leave it in this area there, it's never going to get right. And this is why it's really important that I go and reconcile the bank account. And I go back once I've reconciled to see if there's any more transactions still outstanding. And in this case, in this way, I need to be dealing with each one of these transactions, and I can deal with them by just going into them, edit them and adjust them as needed. So maybe I have realized that this shouldn't have gone to Revolut. It should have gone to my pay by cash. And that gives me a chance to save and close, press yes. I'm now reducing down the amount of transactions that I've got sat there. It's really important we do it this way to make sure that we're okay. As I mentioned, the next part that's really important is we need to make sure our debtors and creditors are okay. So if I go into my report section, and I look at the who owed you section and aged accounts, aged receivable, then if I look at today's date, I should be confident with these figures here. As you can see here, I've got a lot of 91 days and over that sat there. I don't think they're actually legitimate. I think there's been a bit of a problem here. We've made a bit of a mistake in our bookkeeping, and we need to clear these out. And you need to be going through these and going and looking at them. The most common thing that can happen here is that as you've received the money into your bank account, instead of matching them against an outstanding account or a standing invoice that we've got shown here, you may have inadvertently have created a sales receipt based on that income, which means you've double counted that transaction. That's normally the most common issue that we have here, and this is why it's so important that you keep on top of your debtors list. You make sure that your debtor list is correct, and you should be able to go through here and agree each and every one. And if you do have 91 days and over, and they're legitimately 91 days and over, start thinking about, well, maybe we should be providing a bad debt for this one. Maybe we should be thinking about actually looking at this in a different format. Now, it could be your accountant that clears that bad debt for you, or you could look at one of my videos of how to do a bad debt. But this is where you need to be looking at taking ownership. That debtors figure is so important. And the fact is, we're doing today's debtors list, which should be able to make things right for us. But in reality, you also need to change that. You need to go to your last financial year, run report. And a trick I would always do is I would move it from report date just there, which this is your legitimately what you're going to be showing on your account. At this point, it'd be £131,000 of debt. But if I press the current account and press run report, current agent and run report, we'll notice how that's reduced, because now we're looking at ones that are still outstanding today. So your year end, which in this case was February, almost a year ago, and I'm still showing 98,000. That does not sit right with me. That's the sort of things I want to be checking out for, and that, because you've checked and you understand, means that you understand there's a problem in it. Now, maybe you need to go to your accountant and get it fixed, or reach out to Bofix and ask them to do an MOT for you and fix it for you. Either way, you need to know first and foremost there's a problem, so that then you can go out there and fix it. Don't forget to go and do the on the other side as well. So we all just looked at who owes you, but what about what you owe, and do accounts payable summary. Again, go through them ones. Does that look right to you? Do those figures feel like they're the ones that are still outstanding? Now, when it comes to your creditors figure, sometimes it could be a case of what we talked about before, where it's been double counted. But one of the other major issues is that you may have paid for that personally, or you may have paid cash to deal with it, or maybe a credit card and you paid the wrong card. You didn't pay your commercial card, you paid it on your personal card by accident. Basically, that the creditor has been paid for, it's just that you haven't recorded that because it's not come through the bank account. That's perfectly legitimately fine. You just need to make sure that you're recording that. Now, as we've seen on previous videos, the way I would deal with it, especially if it's a director's loan or a drawings figure, is I'd have that cash account, especially if it's a small amount like this, £4.80. I'd go into the transaction, I'd say make payment, and from there I'd choose it. And if it was a director's loan or drawing account, because I've got it as a bank account, can save and close, that transaction's been marked as paid. Just be careful on the date you choose there. Realistically, I should have chosen probably my year-end date or something just to clear it out, but just make sure that that date has been looked at and we're happy with it. Another thing to remember, and this one comes up quite often, is if I go into a transaction, I go to go and pay it off, and I get something appearing on the right-hand side, well, sometimes that can be the expense that you accidentally posted on your bank account, and it's asking you, are these the same things? So always keep an eye on this right hand side. This is QuickBooks trying to give you some indication that something's not quite right and helping you out. My next tip is go into your profit and loss by month. I love this report. Profit and loss by month, especially if you do your last financial return and run report, gives you an opportunity to see your profit and loss on a month-by-month basis, which means you may be able to spot some differences. For example, here, I'm looking straight away here. I've shown my director salary all the way up to June, but I haven't posted anything from there. That's something that I may want to include, or at least let my accountant know hasn't been included yet. Again, gross wages, I've only gone up to June, haven't gone any further from there. Mileage, I've only included May, June, July, haven't included anything else. Printing and postage, well, it's dropped significantly in December and I haven't got anything for February. Again, because I can see it in this format, I can go there and see if that's correct. Now, legitimately, there may be a reason for it, there may be a problem, but also it can go in there. And also, it's a great way of spotting things that may need to have prepayment, accruals. Now, not necessarily meaning you've got to do them, but at least giving you an indication that you might be able to let your accountant know about it, you know, let your accountant know that you expect a prepayment accrual on that one. And that's going to give you some opportunities. And you see some one-off transactions like this bad debt coming through here. That might remind you that there may be some more bad debts for you to include, or whatever it's going to be. At least that gives you an opportunity to see these differences. And also keep an eye on that cost of sales. Does it look right that they're going through? Is there an indication that you might need to consider stock or anything like that to be able to make sure these are legitimate going forward? Overall, this report is so powerful because it puts the same detail that you're going to be needing for your account, but in a much more manageable fashion. And I really like the way that it's spread out here. And I think it gives a great opportunity for you to spot any potential errors that are there. Don't forget, on QuickBooks Online, you can run, say, an estimate of your income tax to give you a feel of what to expect there as well. Now you've gone through and checked all those little things, that should be even more accurate than theirs now. So I highly recommend you do that. And make sure things like your payroll and your VAT submissions are all up to date as well. That's going to be really important. And it's not necessarily just up to the year end, but anything after that date as well, because there may be adjustments that you've done in your VAT return previously that need to be shown in the counts that have just been done. And then the final bit is just making sure everything's been included. Is there anything out there that doesn't appear on your bank account, hasn't appeared anywhere else, and you just haven't included whatsoever? Maybe a capital purchase that you've made personally that is actually for the business. Now is your time to start putting those things in. Use the power of QuickBooks, take photos of those transactions, get them in there nice and quickly, but just make sure that they're at least there. From an accountant's point of view, It's our job to go through and make sure that those are legitimate expenses and that we can claim for 100% of them, etc., etc. But we can't do that. We can't do our job if we haven't seen them in the first place. So just making sure all that data's there is going to be the most important thing. Finally, have a look at the profit and loss account. Make sure that that feels comfortable for you. You know, are you expecting to see an income, or did you expect to see a loss and suddenly you've got an income? Them sort of things can be really important. You may not know the answer, but at least if you've got that inkling of what you expected before you went in there, that's something you can ask a client or ask your accountant, or again, reach out to Profit, whatever you need to do to be able to get those answers. Finally, the most important report of all of them is what's called your balance sheet. This balance sheet here, and hopefully yours isn't as complicated as the one on screen now, but this balance sheet here is so important. This is what's going to be the justification of what your account's going to be. And you need to be making sure that it's shown to the last financial year end. And in reality, every figure here, you should be able to say, yes, I agree with that figure. Because these figures represent, as at your year end, what the value of those transactions are. So for example, if you've got a loan outstanding, does that loan look right? If you have a PayPal account, is it correct that at the moment it's negative? That doesn't seem right to me. And you can go through line by line, making sure you're happy with these transactions and they look right. Things like net wages, that should be what you're owed to your employees after your year end. If that's not the case, then something may have gone wrong. So use this, go through your balance sheet, have a look at it and make sure everything's correct. And there we have it. Some really nice, straightforward ways in which you can make sure everything's correct. By far the most important one is that reconciliation of the bank account. If you've got a nice reconciled bank account, half the work, half the battle is already there for your accountant. That should give them the opportunity to be able to spot everything else. They're going to be doing most of this work for you anyway. A lot of it is overkill, but it's all about making sure that you're confident in that data you're going forward. And especially if you're looking to do your own accounts or your own tax return, you want to be making sure that that's what's correct, that QuickBooks is giving you accurate data. And the only way you can make sure QuickBooks give you accurate data is to be confident that that balance sheet's correct. A little known rule within accounting is if we can get our balance sheet spot on and we can be confident in every figure that's on our balance sheet, in reality then our accounts must be correct. Maybe a presentation issue, maybe something's not been quite put to the right account, you know, something might have been to travel when it should have been post, for example, that's fine. But if our balance sheet's correct, then it's only down to presentation that can be an issue for us. So as an accountant, we always try and make sure that balance sheet is correct, and you can do yourself a favour by looking yourself and giving yourself that confidence as well. Let me know below your comments. Is there anything else you would always check? Payroll is important. VAT is important. Get them up to date before you start sending your items over. Stock management can be make or break for some clients out there. But let me know below if there's anything else that you're critical on looking at before you go and submit your accounts to your accountant. We love hearing you in those comments, so don't be shy. Put as many comments in below and we'll make sure we get back to you. If you made it this far, don't forget to do that like, subscribe and all that jazz to the video. It makes a huge difference for a channel like us. Every time you like, every time you subscribe, you're pushing our algorithm going the right way. It means that more people can get this information into their eyeballs. And the more people we get information to, the better overall we're going to have our QuickBooks community grow and give us an opportunity to be able to make sure that we get better quality content out there. My name's been Patrick, and as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to do this video for you. I will hope to see you in the next video, but I'm sure I will. And for now, bye for now. I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it starts. I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want, if you want. I can be a fighter. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter if you want. All the way that I feel, yeah, I know that it's real, 'cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah. You know I want him nah, 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 nah. My heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah. Hello and thank you for watching that video. What you may not know is this channel that you've watched this video from is part of a wider group. That wider group is called Apple Core Production, and the 3 channels that we have involved are as follows: Aaron Patrick the QuickBooks Chat, Boffix Tax Tip. Finally, we have Apple Core Live and Geeky. All the links and everything are down below in the description, but it really means a lot to us if you can go and give a like to the other channels as well.